Okay, let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about a phrase that I'm sure you've heard and maybe even felt a little thrown by. I don't see color. We're going to break down why that phrase can feel so jarring and, more importantly, give you a real practical toolkit for how to respond. So, picture this. You're at a routine doctor's appointment. The nurse is friendly, trying to put you at ease, and then she says it with a smile. I don't see color. This is exactly what happened to Dr. Shungu Hilda Magadza, the psychologist whose work we're exploring today. She knew, she could feel, that the nurse meant it to be reassuring, a way of saying, hey, I treat everyone the same. But for Dr. Magadza, something just sank. And that right there, that's the heart of the issue. You've got this collision, right? The speaker's good intention clashing with the listener's reality. Suddenly, you're not just a patient. You're having this whole internal debate, feeling completely dismissed and honestly a little unsafe. You start wondering, wait, if you don't see my color, do you really see me? Do you understand the specific health risks that come with being a Black patient?
So why does this happen? Why does a comment that's supposed to build a bridge end up feeling like a giant wall? Well, to get to the bottom of that, we're going to use a really helpful framework that basically gives us a map of what's happening in these moments. It's called the 6 stages framework. Think of it as a spectrum, a continuum of behaviors. On one end, you've got really harmful actions, and on the other, you have actions that lead to real transformational change. It helps us pinpoint exactly where a comment like, I don't see color, actually lands. And what's so important here is that this isn't just about labeling people good or bad, racist or not racist. It's not a light switch. It's more like a dimmer switch. The negative side shows behaviors that do harm, often rooted in denial. The positive side, that's where we see growing awareness, courage, and real allyship. It lets us get specific about the behavior, not just the person.
So, the big question, where on this map does our phrase, I don't see color, actually fall? Well, the framework is super precise about this. It places it right here, on the negative side of the spectrum at stage -2. So, what does that actually mean? Welcome to stage -2, denial, colorblindness, and fragility. Dr. Magadza has a couple of great names for this zone. She calls it comfortably unaware or defensively avoidant. It's that mindset of, oh, we're all just people, which sounds nice, but it completely sidesteps the real systemic issues. It's really about prioritizing your own comfort over facing a much more complicated and, frankly, uncomfortable truth. And this gets us to the absolute core of it. Why is this seemingly innocent phrase on the negative side of the map? Because, you know what? It actually stops growth in its tracks. It creates this huge gap between what the speaker intends and how their words actually impact the other person. Just look at this breakdown. The intention is almost always, I want you to know I'm a good person who treats everyone equally. It's about self-perception. But the impact, what the other person actually experiences, is totally different. It feels like you're telling me my identity doesn't matter and that my experiences with racism aren't real. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? If you make a point of not seeing race, then you literally cannot see racism. Let's bring it back to that doctor's office. It makes you think, okay, if you don't see my color, do you see the higher risk I have for certain health conditions? Do you see the data about the health disparities that affect people who look like me? It's a huge blind spot. All right, so you've just heard the phrase. It's hanging in the air. Before you even begin to think about what to say, this framework tells us to do something really important first. Check in with your body. Because your nervous system is already way ahead of you. It's done a lightning-fast risk assessment. That tightness in your jaw, that feeling of your heart beating a little faster, that little voice in your head screaming, just be polite, don't make a scene. Those aren't signs you're failing, not at all. They are deeply learned survival skills for dealing with these kinds of moments. Just taking a second to notice them is a huge first step. Okay, now we get to the really practical stuff, the toolkit. The framework gives us 3 different ways we can respond. And the trick here is that there's no single right answer. It's all about matching your response to the situation, how safe you feel, and frankly, how much energy you have in that moment. So strategy number 1 is what we call gentle curiosity. This is your go-to when the relationship is important. Maybe it's a friend or a coworker you like. You get the sense that they really do mean well, they're just comfortably unaware. And this is key, you actually have the emotional bandwidth to engage. You're trying to open a door here, not build a wall. So what does gentle curiosity sound like? It might be something like this. See how it starts? You acknowledge their good intention right up front. I know people often say that to me, which is really disarming. Then you pivot, using I statements to share your reality. It's not an attack, it's an invitation to see the world through your eyes for a moment.
Option 2 is a little different. It's called setting a clear boundary. This is for those moments when you need to be more direct. When your priority isn't the other person's comfort, it's about naming what's happening and ensuring your own safety. This isn't about being aggressive. It's about operating from a place of strength and clarity, what the framework calls being an active ally, up at stage +3. A clear boundary sounds more like this. It's direct, right? It's educational. It names the problem, that colorblindness erases racism, and then it clearly states a need. It's a way of modeling what a more aware, more responsible perspective actually looks like, especially in a professional setting.
And then there's the third strategy. And honestly, this one might be the most important because it's all about self-preservation. It's called protect and exit. This is your strategy for when you are just done. You're exhausted, you don't feel safe, or the power dynamic is just too skewed to make a confrontation worthwhile.
Let me be really clear about this. Choosing to disengage is not weakness. The framework calls it a survival-wise move, and I love that. You can say something simple, like in this quote, just to mark the moment. Or, you know what? You can also say nothing at all. Protecting your own peace is always, always a valid choice.
So, with all these tools and this whole framework, what's a realistic goal? I mean, nobody expects you to jump from a -2 to a +6 overnight. That's not how this works. The goal is actually much smaller and way more sustainable.
It all comes down to this one simple but really powerful idea: making a +1 shift. That's it. It's about finding one small, achievable step forward from wherever you happen to be right now.
So, for the person who says, I don't see color at stage -2, maybe a +1 shift is just getting to stage 0, cautious awareness. That moment of realizing, oh, maybe my good intentions aren't having the effect I thought. And for you, the person who hears it, a +1 shift might just be quietly practicing one of these responses in your head for next time. That's progress.
Which brings us to our final question for you. Whether you're the one who has said this or the one who's heard it, the goal isn't to be perfect. It's just to get a little better. So what's one small +1 shift you can make this week to see people and maybe be seen yourself a little more fully?